Okay. So, yeah, I have a lot to talk about today. And it's interesting because, I'm in this book writing retreat right now, and I'm writing a book called Wealth Alchemy. And the book is about repatterning wealth programming, and it is about the deconstruction of financial slavery consciousness on this planet. And so the book was largely written in the last writer's retreat that I did. I ended the writer's retreat with about 68,000 words, and the book just really kind of needed to go into refinement. And so I signed up for this writer's retreat, and then I had resistance to the book. Like literally that was months ago. I did that in January, I think. So it's been about 6 months, and I've just had massive resistance to the book. Literally, I've only opened it twice, didn't work on it at all. So another week-long writer's retreat came to be, and so I decided to do it, right? Like I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna finish the book, and it's gonna be amazing, and I'm just gonna be able to focus on refinement all week, and I'll get it done, and we'll have a book out in the world, right? And then I set and so we're gonna launch it on 8/8, and it'll be great and it'll be amazing. And so we head into this week, and all this upset and turmoil and trauma is happening in the world. And I just was really having difficulty focusing Sunday, Monday. And Monday evening, I realized that there was an entire portion of this book that I had been avoiding. And I think truly an entire portion of my purpose work that I had been avoiding. And so one of the things that I realized on Monday afternoon was that I cannot discuss how the entire planet and all the beings on the planet, aside from, a very small group of global financial elite, wound up in financial slavery consciousness without talking about how those global financial elite got there in the first place, and without discussing our current economy that was built on bodies, that was built on the global slave trade. And, I just kind of got pissed on Monday night, because I was like, I don't want to talk about race. Like, I don't want to talk about race. I don't want it to be part of my work that I do in the world. I am not a historian. I am not a social justice advocate. There are so many amazing social justice warriors out there that are doing it so amazingly well, right? It's like, who am I? Who am I? This, light-skinned, multiracial, privileged as fuck, living the life I deeply desire, that I created for myself in Bali, woman, to talk about what my ancestors went through. And that's a really good excuse. It's a really good excuse for me not to have to talk about the hard things, right? I come from lines of incredible individuals. I am the great granddaughter of Josiah Bartlett, who was the second signer of the Declaration of Independence. Josiah Bartlett also happened to be a particularly cruel owner of slaves. And for those of you that know my middle son, who is black, whose father is black, his biological father is black, Josiah is named after him. And so on my mother's side of the family, both my grandmother and my grandfather's families were first colonizers here in the United States. Both sides of the family were slave owners. And Then I have my father's side of the family, which is Black and German and Native American. And we have an incredible family history there. Alicia Baker, who's on the call right now, is my cousin. She is my Kraut cousin. We have an incredible family history that includes our great-great-great-grandmother, Julia Ann Kraut, and a lineage of ancestors that come down from the marriage of a white German plantation owner to his slave, which was a really big deal at the time. And so, and then I have my Native American history, my Cherokee history as well. So it's a real mixed bag for me. And I was raised by a white mother in southern Idaho and in Utah. And for most of my life, I was the only Black or biracial kid in my school system. I was absolutely raised in privilege, and didn't know a lot about my Black history or the Black side of my family, because when my parents divorced, my father wasn't able to show up as a part-time dad. And so as a result of that, I was estranged from the Black side of my family. And it wasn't until I was in my, around 19 or 20 that I actually reconnected with that side of my family. And I'm now quite close to several members of that family, including Alicia. And so, yeah, it's that there's a piece for me that really feels like, who am I too? And like anything else in my life, this is where I get to grow. This is where I get to step into the next highest level version of myself. And my higher self gets to come down and ask me, who are you not to? Because there is a message that needs to be heard here. There's a message that needs to be heard. And we are, as a planet, hurting and traumatized, and we are trying to create reason from chaos, and we are grasping onto anything that we can, and we are placing blame wherever we can, including trying to make this issue that we're having political, which is not. And so for me, I really truly believe that the issue here is, it has to do with money, and it has to do with control, and it has to do with how a small group of people have manipulated an entire planet through financial constraint and control and manipulation, using tools like poverty to maximize the monetization of human bodies. And when I say human bodies, I mean all bodies, white, brown, Black, all bodies. We are all living in a state of financial slavery consciousness. However, and this is the part that I wasn't willing to talk about, and that I didn't want to talk about, that it's now become so apparent to me that I have to discuss and I have to talk about, is that the most valuable of all the human currency are our brown and Black bodies. And it is because they are the easiest to manipulate right now, and they receive the biggest return on investment. And so these are some of the things that I'm going to be talking about in the book, about how we have lived in differing degrees of financial manipulation. And that ultimately this all comes down to how many dollars and cents can we milk from a person, and it has a lot to do with their socioeconomic background and how they're brought up. And we have a whole race of people that have been oppressed for so long, that believed that things changed with the changing of, with the emancipation and the abolition of slavery. We believed that things changed, and then we believed things changed again with the civil rights movement. And really all we did was enter into new types of slavery, new types of slavery that in many ways were more insidious than the previous types of slavery, because they were systemic and hidden in nature. And racism became institutionalized, and our Black children began to be groomed and moved through a system that was priming them for incarceration, because their bodies in incarceration make a tremendous amount of money for our private prison systems. So, while I didn't want to talk about any of this in my book, and while this is stuff that I know about and I've studied about, it's not what I speak about, because until this point, I've been like, no, my purpose work is to deconstruct financial slavery consciousness. My purpose work is to help people realize that they are in control of their financial destinies. But I was very remiss in leaving out this whole piece of the story that I felt like wasn't mine to tell. So I'm going to be telling it in the book. Part of me being on this live stream is sort of just walking through, it's me walking through, what I'm going to be saying and what I'm going to be talking about in the book. I began writing the chapter, which is called Built on Bodies, last night. And I will continue to write today. And in the meantime, I have been, kind of keeping my finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world, and trying my best not to get overly frustrated by the things that I'm seeing, and trying my best to voice my thoughts and feelings, and recognizing and realizing that I have a tremendous platform and a very large community that's looking for guidance and answers. And so as a result of that, I have been fucking stepping up, and stepping into a role that I haven't been comfortable with in the past, which is sharing my thoughts, feelings, and perspectives on what's happening in the world. I believe that I'm in a really unique position to do that because I've done so much work around deconstructing programming. And all I see as I scroll Facebook is programming, is people conditioned to behave in a certain way. And it's on both sides of the color line. And the programming and the conditioning is debilitating. It literally is, until we look at it and until we begin to deconstruct it, the change isn't going to happen. Until we begin to realize that it's about something more than black and white, until we begin to realize that it is that we are still being manipulated for our I guess I want to say, before I go into this, I want to say that, this isn't to discount anything that's happened. This isn't to discount our feelings. It isn't to discount how we've been traumatized, how we've all been traumatized by the videos that we're seeing, by the videos that are being released in the media. Even this morning, I, got on Facebook, and the thing you have to know about me is, like, as of late, I would say probably for the last 6 months, I'm not a Facebook scroller, because I've got the sheer numbers of messages that I receive that I have to respond to, of my private clients. It just doesn't allow for me to be scrolling Facebook. And it wasn't until all of this started happening that I sort of began doing that again. In the last couple of days, I have been shocked at the amount of extremely traumatizing material that is being passed around the internet. And, you know, I think that this is something that we really need to look at. And I really, really encourage you, before you share that video of George Floyd again, before you share the video of the 77-year-old retired black police officer who was a security guard that got shot during the riot, before you share another video of a black man being executed or brutally beaten, before you share another video of a black woman being ripped from the arms of her children, I really want you to think about what you're doing. Because yes, awareness is part of it, but each time those videos get shared, the people on the receiving end of those videos are traumatized, and they are re-traumatized, and their ancestral trauma is re-triggered and re-traumatized. You know, it's, social media is this real dichotomy, I think, because we have this amazing ability to share information so quickly. And at the same time, I wonder how many people stop to think about, is this traumatization exactly what they want? Do they want us to be emotional? Do they want us to be not thinking clearly? Somebody who is overly emotional and cannot think clearly because they are traumatized is much easier to manipulate and control. And so I encourage you, before you share, to think about who may be on the receiving end of what you're sharing, and how it potentially could affect them. And before you watch those videos, I encourage you to ask yourself, what will it create and bring up in you? And do you need to see that? Do you need to actually see it and witness it to know that it's happening, and to know that it's going on, and to know that it's wrong? So it's just a time to think. It's a time to really be careful in what we share. Be careful in what we are putting out into the information field. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And, you know, I think we have a responsibility to all other beings on this planet to think before we just act. I'm going to get to the blackout thing in a minute. Yeah, so, yes, and I guess the other piece of that is that there is so much incredible information that you can share. There are so many incredible resources and educational materials and information that you can share. And I'm actually going to be putting together a list of social justice activists that are doing an amazing and incredible job of educating, so that I can have that as a resource for my community. So if there are people that are watching that are like, oh, I love this person, like I think this person's really amazing, shoot me a private message, and we'll look at including those people in the list of resources. Because what I really want us to do as a community is to be sharing resources that actually are going to affect change, to be sharing resources that are actually going to be making a difference, right? That will be educating people. And so for me, it is much more powerful to share education on white privilege, or to share education on, you know, the stuff that I'm going to be writing about, which is like, how did slavery play a role in the building of our global economy? Actually understanding how we got here, how we got to this position that we're all in right now, where we're being controlled and manipulated. So sharing those types of resources to me is so much more impactful than a black square or resharing a video that's going to traumatize and re-traumatize people. And so that's really my call to my community is let's begin sharing things that actually make a difference. Let's begin supporting the amazing social justice advocates that are out there in the world doing this work, that are working tirelessly to actually affect change. Let's begin sharing their work. Let's, and let's do it from a place of integrity. Like if you haven't watched my live stream from yesterday, please do, because if you don't really give a shit about this and you've never shared before and you're just doing it now to assimilate, or because all your friends are doing it, or because you're afraid that if you don't do it, you're going to get called out, please don't do it. We need people to really check in with their personal integrity during this time and be doing things that are in integrity for themselves, because the things that are out of integrity are not actually going to create change. It is only the things that are in integrity that are going to create change for you. Or that are going to create change on this planet. So, it doesn't mean if you're new to this whole thing, if you're just waking up, if you're just recognizing your privilege, if you're just realizing, because of everything that's happened, you're just realizing how horrible this entire thing is, how long this has been going on. Like, if that's the case, then yes, absolutely share the information that you're when you're educating yourself and you're like, wow, this was really helpful to me. Share that. Tag that person, direct people to social justice advocates that you believe are doing a good job and that are impacting you. These are the actions that are going to create impact right now. These are the things that are going to create change. Continuing to share videos that are re-traumatizing people is not. It does get people riled up. It does get people upset. It does get people really, really emotional. It does add to the extremely violently charged energy on this planet right now. There's enough violently charged people out there right now. I think we can all see that. I think that we could do some real good to try to reduce some of that charge, and doing that through education and doing that through direction to people that have dedicated their lives to that education. So it looks like Alicia said that she's got a list that John's cousin put together around conversation with kids. Amazing. So yeah, so we will continue to share resources for you, and my hope is that you will begin to then share those resources. The blackout. I want to talk about the blackout for a minute. So last night I was talking with a black friend of mine, and I was like, this blackout thing is out of control. I'm like, all I'm seeing as I'm scrolling Instagram is like all of these white women with these black squares. And I'm like, they don't even know what this is about. They're literally doing it to assimilate. They're literally doing it because all their friends are doing it. And it becomes this very trite, pointless exercise when you don't actually know why it's happening. And it was so interesting because I had heard 3 or 4 different things yesterday, and I was like, let me tell you something. If I don't know what this thing is, and there are 4 or 5 different things circulating about what this thing is, then this was poorly executed. It was poorly executed, it was poorly marketed, and it is not affecting change. When people don't know why they're posting something, or they only have a vague idea of why they're posting something, or they just saw someone post something and they were like, oh yeah, I think that's a good idea, I'm gonna do that too. Or they're struggling with their own privilege, and so they're like, this will make me feel better to put this black square in my profile picture. Like, that's not it, folks. That's not it. And so last night I was like, okay, I really want to get to the bottom of this because I want to know, because I'm literally seeing Black women doing this. I'm seeing white women doing this. I'm seeing biracial women doing this. And I'm like, from what I knew of the movement, which was that it was founded within the music industry, it was in relation to protesting against the music industry that is making, you know, so many millions and millions and millions of dollars off of Black artists. Like, it was to bring attention to the Black artists, right? And so I started looking through all of what this was last night, and I was just like, nobody has a clue why they're posting these fucking Black squares. And some people are posting to show solidarity with Black artists, but I'm like, you know, and then there's a bunch of people posting it and saying, I'm not gonna share my work today, you know, to allow Black people's voices to be heard. And I'm like, look, all that's happening is you're filling your feed with Black squares. You're not retargeting towards people who have important messages to share. You know, the music industry movement was like, let's not promote white people in the music industry. Let's not promote our work for a day. Let's promote the work of Black artists. And I'm like, for healers and energy workers and coaches to all of a sudden be on this bandwagon, I'm like, you don't work in the music industry. You don't work in the music industry. And do you even know what this is about? Like, do you even understand why you're doing this? Or are you just jumping on a bandwagon? So, and the truth is that I don't believe anyone can fully understand why they're doing it, because there are 4 different movements that then got mishmashed together in some way. And because there are 4 different movements, not one of them is actually doing what it meant to do. And then you've got these Black squares that was meant to, like, you know, promote Black Lives Matter, but everyone's hashtagging BLM and Black Lives Matter. And so now when people are actually searching Black Lives Matter to get that information, all they're seeing is this sea of fucking Black squares. So I really encourage you to stop, okay? Stop and think about what you're doing. Stop and think about why you're doing something. And don't do it just because your friends are all doing it. Don't do it just because you read one article of one person that said that this was a good idea. Like, make sure that you're researching stuff. And more importantly, lend your voice to something that is going to actually create change. A bunch of Black squares on social media are not doing anything. They're not. You putting a Black square on social media, yes, it may say that you support Black people. It may say that you support Black Lives Matter. It may say that you stand in solidarity with Black people. It may say that, you know, you've decided to, like, not promote your work for a day for Black voices to be heard, I guess. But at the end of the day, what difference did that actually make? How did that actually change anything? And how much better would your voice have been served, instead of posting that Black square, to actually post a link that was relevant, that could help educate somebody on what's going on in the world? We have to begin to think. We have to stop. We have to step out of assimilation. We have to stop being so easily fucking manipulated. And I don't know, was this entire thing staged to repress digital protest? I think it's possible. I do think it's possible. You have to begin to use your brains, right? You have to say, okay, if this is the question, everything, you guys. If I was being manipulated and everything I was being told right now was a lie, who would benefit from that lie? If this George Floyd video wasn't released by somebody who just happened to catch this thing on film, if this was actually something that was staged, or if it was something that happened and then a video was released to create a certain reaction, who would benefit from that? And I'm not saying that that's the case, but I am saying that There is a reason why you are being allowed to see that George Floyd video. If you believe that the media and the government does not have the ability to take that video down and put it somewhere where you will never see it, you are sadly mistaken. You are being allowed to see that video. That video is being allowed to circulate and re-traumatize people over and over and over again for a purpose, okay? Begin to question everything. Begin to ask the important questions. If I was being manipulated right now, who would benefit from that? This is how we begin to deconstruct programming. This is how we begin to look at financial slavery consciousness. This is how we begin to look at why we have been unable to move forward collectively from something that has been happening, especially in the United States, for 400 years. Black men have been being brutally tortured, killed for 400 years. This is nothing new, you guys. I understand that we have media now and things can spread like wildfire. You're still being allowed to see it. Question everything. Question everything. And start to ask yourself, if I want to make an impact, how can I actually do that in a way that's meaningful? That's not fucking trite. That's not me throwing up a black square on my profile picture to make everybody think, look at me and be like, oh, look how amazing she is. You know, she's standing for Black lives. I just cannot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just at this point where I'm like, the ignorance has to stop. We have to be willing to start to use our fucking brains and logically think about, how can we create change? How can I create change in this moment? How can I create change in this moment? I mean, that was the big thing that hit me yesterday about this book, is like, oh my God, how irresponsible would it have been of me to put this book out talking about financial slavery consciousness on this planet without talking about how the fucking global economy was built in the first place, on bodies, right? Using bodies, using people as currency. So it's just, you know, stop jumping on the bandwagon. Start looking to social justice leaders for instructions on how you can make a difference. If you're choosing to be an ally, be one. Stop assimilating. Stop doing everything just because everybody else is doing it. And if after doing all that research, you're like, wow, like this person started this movement and yeah, I feel like it got diluted, but I really stand behind, you know, whatever this thing is, and I want to put the black square, good, tell me to fuck off, right? But think about it before you do it. Don't just jump on the bandwagon and do it because everybody else is doing it. And maybe try to do something that's actually going to create lasting change. You know, you sharing an article, or you sharing a resource, or you sharing the page of a social justice activist that has spent their entire career, you know, educating on social justice issues, you share that onto your page and 3 or 4 people see that, and then they go read those resources and they actually have education now, right? They have more education than they did prior to you sharing that link. Then you're actually creating a ripple effect out in the world. And then those 3 people go and share it with, you know, 1 person. And then that person goes and shares it with 2 people. And it's like, then you're actually creating change. Then you're actually creating impact. Then you're actually doing something, not just slapping a black square up on your profile picture to show that you stand with black people. We don't need it. Like, we don't need it. And so now I want to talk about this thing around not working and not selling your services. We do not need you to not work. We do not need you to not provide for your family. We do not need you to not sell your services so that we can sell ours. Again, this is literally, like, for me, I look at this and it makes me, it is reinforcing that black people are weak and that they cannot stand on their own 2 feet, and that that they cannot share their messages into the world. Like the white people now have to come in and save them and like not share their work and not share their messages so that the black people can be heard. No. If your purpose work is for you to go out in the world and create change and heal people and help people in whatever way, whatever your gift is that you came here to share with the world, go share it. We need it more now than ever. We need you to do your work in the world. We don't need you to say, I'm not going to do my work because I stand with black people. How is that helping? How is that helping? And if you did decide to not do that, if you did decide that you wanted to showcase, you wanted to spend a day showcasing some, let's say a colleague of yours, say you're a coach and you know another coach who's a black coach and she's amazing. And, she's educating on issues of racial justice or social justice. And you're like, yeah, I want to actually like dedicate my day to promoting her. Great, go do it. But ultimately, then what happens to those people that you were meant to be impacting that day? What happens to those people that you were meant to be healing? So you're now saying my gift and the gift that the divine has given me is not as important as the gift that the divine has given this woman. And then we end up back in this, energetically, that feels yucky to me. That does not feel like we are doing what we're intending to do here. So why can't you do both? Why can't you do the work that you're here to do in the world and support someone that you believe is doing good work in the world and support somebody that may be able to go out and educate people on what's happening in the world and what has happened in the world and what has happened in America for the last 400 years? A black profile picture isn't going to do it. You stopping doing your purpose work in the world for one day isn't going to do it. Yeah. So share your work. It's fascinating because I'm like in launch of my program, Mastering Your Spiritual Money Game, and I haven't even been promoting it really because all this other stuff's been going on and I've been writing the book and I've been here talking about this stuff. And I had already added in 4 new modules to talk about all this stuff that's happening in the world. And I'm like, so here's the thing. Does the world need me to be like, oh, I have this program in launch, but I'm not gonna promote it because black voices need to be heard and I'm only partially black. So I need to not share this very important work that I'm doing in the world, which is actually creating, like it is deconstructing financial slavery consciousness, which then allows all of us to have more financial resources to support the causes that we care about. How amazing it would be if you actually got your money shit together and you could just fucking write a check somewhere right now where it would actually do good. If you could write a check to support some of these amazing social justice activists who have been in the game, who have been in the trenches, who actually need the financial support. You are much better served going out and making money, doing your purpose work, putting your gifts out into the world, and then taking a portion of that money that you make and supporting these other people. That's how you make a difference, right? So imagine if I just said, wow, I should stop promoting Mastering Your Spiritual Money Game. I should stop helping people get their money shit together. I should stop helping people free themselves from financial slavery consciousness. And I should just put a black square on my page and not promote my work for a day. What did I do? Well, most likely 2 or 3 people that were gonna see my message that would have potentially had the ability to shift their money shit, right? Deconstruct their programming, learn about how slavery affected the global economy, learn and understand how we actually got to this place that we are, how and why we are so easily manipulated and controlled right now. And then we're taught tools to step into their power and reclaim their financial destiny. those 2 or 3 people that would have potentially heard my message today, sometimes more, sometimes 10, sometimes 20, those people wouldn't have heard my message, wouldn't have been able to get those skills and tools right now, and then wouldn't have had the ability to take their newly found resources and go out and actually support causes that are going to make a difference. This is why we have to think it through. This is why we have to not do these knee-jerk reactions to what everybody else is doing, right? This is why we have to use our brains. This is why we have to dig deeper into why are we doing this thing? And ultimately, how is it helping? How is it affecting change? And if it's not, don't fucking do it, right? So for me, I'm like, the most important thing that I can do right now is promote my money program, because it actually will empower people to have the financial resources to go out and contribute, to go out and create change. We have to begin to look at the programming. We have to look at how we are conditioned. We have to look at how we are controlled, period. Because until we do that, we just continue to run on this hamster wheel, and we're never going to get off. It doesn't matter how many black men are executed in the street on video and circulated across the planet. We're going to stay on the hamster wheel until we look at our programming, our conditioning, and how we got where we are. If you want to make a difference, go out and share your purpose work in the world and change somebody's life. If you want to make a difference, go find a social justice activist that can teach you something that you can then pass on and share. If you want to make a difference, sign up for a program that's going to help you deconstruct your conditioning so that you can actually see what's happening in the world around you. Emotional clearing practitioners, we need you more now than we ever have. We need you sharing your work. We need you out there helping people deconstruct their fucking programming and their conditioning so that they can see, so that that little hole can get ripped in the matrix, and all of a sudden they can be like, holy shit, like all of this has been happening all this time and I never saw it. If you are in a position where you know that you don't have the ability to create change because your money shit is a fucking train wreck, join me in my program. And I will promote this program, and I have no problem promoting this program on this live stream. And here's why. Because I'm actually fucking creating change. I'm actually having people every single day reclaiming their financial destinies, hitting their safety, security, and stability numbers, and right now are having the ability to go out and support the causes that they care about. They're actually making a difference in the world. Do you want to make a difference? Gain influence. Either gain influence by creating a platform and a community and having an audience that listens to you, or gain influence by having control of your monetary, financial reality. Understand why you are disempowered. Take that power back. Step fully into reclaiming what is rightfully yours. Stop playing the game inside the global financial agenda the way that they want you to play it. Begin playing it on your terms. Don't continue to just be a body that our global economic system is built upon. Don't blindly continue to just follow the rules because that's what you've been told your entire life you have to do. Question everything. Question everything. We started Mastering Your Spiritual Money Game yesterday. There is content being dropped over the weekend. You can still join us. It's a 10-week journey with me, and I can promise you that all of this stuff is what's going to be up in this container. We've already got, I think, 40-something people in there, and It's going to be an incredible journey. So do you want to make a difference? And how are you going to choose to make a difference? I think that's all I have to say today. I should read some comments, I guess. I really wasn't even reading any comments. I was just going off. Slavery consciousness as a whole runs deeply in the roots of humanity. I just never realized it was predominantly fertilized with the blood of people of color. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, there's so much that we are not seeing, right? There's so much happening behind the scenes that we're not seeing. And there's so much that we're being kept in the dark about. So the more that you can do to deconstruct the programming, and the more that you can do to deconstruct your own emotional conditioning around this stuff, the better you're going to be, because the more you're actually going to be able to see what's really happening and going on. Yeah, so don't stop sharing the videos for sure. So Becky said the blackout is intended to bring the focus to Black leaders and let them be highlighted. Yes, that was one intention of one movement that became muddled with several other movements. Hi, Jean Kwan. I don't know if you're still here. Yeah, Catherine, it's very convenient for people to empower, for us all to follow each other's lead without thought and to take advantage of our collective shame, guilt, and trauma. Exactly. If we say a generation is 70 years and the US is 400, the math says we are 5 to 6 generations old. What science can already prove is that trauma is carried in DNA for at least 7 generations. Yeah, at least, and we know it's more than that. That's all that science has proven at this point, but absolutely. We are carrying that trauma in our cells of our bodies, right? Not just Black people, Black and white people. Absolutely, Catherine. Need to speak out. Book recommendation for the US. How the North promoted, prolonged, and profited from slavery, so that you can learn more about this being a system and not an episode in the South. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really important information, right? It's like slavery is glossed over in American history, in US schools, right? They don't want us to actually have an idea of what happened. And so we're fed this line that only a few families in the South benefited from slavery, that it was a Southern thing, and that, you know, Abraham Lincoln came in and saved the day, and, you know, the abolitionists were fighting to end slavery. And like, we really don't talk about how, one, yes, the North absolutely was benefiting from slavery. The world was benefiting from slavery. you know, and the US economy was built from the very beginning on slavery. So first in sugarcane, then in tobacco, a little bit of rice along the way, and then obviously in the 1800s, cotton, right? Cotton was king, and cotton, that affected the entire world and the Industrial Revolution, right? And so not only was everyone in the United States benefiting from that, it wasn't just this small group of millionaires along the Mississippi Delta, right? Like, it was the entire country. The global economy was built on the slave trade, and not just slavery in the United States either, you guys. The slave trade was happening globally, right? And when the Industrial Revolution happened and the introduction of cotton, like, many of these plantations were being funded by the British Crown. I mean, like, there's so much more history than what we're fed, right? And so this is where we need to educate ourselves. What actually happened? What actually was slavery? What was the motivating factors behind slavery? Why were some of the laws created, like the 3/5 law, right? How were plantation owners, I mean, like, people were being used as collateral for lending. People were being used as debt payments. So it's so much greater than what that little brief history on slavery that we covered in the United States. I don't even know what's talked about in the rest of the world in the school system, but I know in the United States, it's like you're barely getting anything on what actually happened. Yeah, by 1860, there were approximately 4 million slaves. And here's the other thing that we really need to begin to look at, and we really need to, like, this is where the education piece comes in, right? Like, 4 million slaves were not ripped from their homes in Africa and brought to the United States. 4 million, we had 4 million slaves by 1860 because we were breeding slaves. We were breeding people for monetary gain, right? I think it went from something crazy like 800,000, and then all of a sudden we were reproducing, they were breeding, like we were reproducing black people at a greater number than black people were dying, and we jumped from like 800,000, I think, to 4 million in a really short period of time. So yeah, look at this, a $3 billion value in 1860. Think about what that means for a minute. Parts of the country here go deeply into it and other parts don't touch it at all. Yeah, so I mean, this is all like where I'm just like, oh my God, like, why me? But I'm here for it. I'm showing up. I'm receiving the transmission. I'm receiving the message. The ancestors are knocking at the door. They're like, go out and share the things. Yeah, they stopped importing and had breeding farms because the slave trade had begun to have this negative association with it, right? When they ended slavery in Britain, I guess, yeah. So when slavery was ended and the slave trade was begun to be looked at negatively, the plantations in the United States still had a tremendous amount of debt, because they had leveraged themselves so much, because that leveraging allowed them to produce more cotton, right? So instead of then, well, when it wasn't okay to continue to import slaves, we just started making our own. We just started breeding our own. So anyway, this wasn't meant to turn into an education on slavery lecture. And there are so many people out there in the world that do it so much better than I do. I am going to compile some amazing resources for you guys so that you have resources to share. And I'm going to continue to educate myself, and I'm going to write this fucking book. I'm actually going to get off right now and go write the book. If you are interested in finding out more about economically how this has impacted you, because it has impacted you. And the thing that I will tell you was that the financial slavery consciousness that we're all experiencing on this planet, the control and manipulation that we're all experiencing in this planet, it was built upon slavery. In order for you to deconstruct your money shit, you have to understand this. You have to understand this, and you have to be willing to take ownership for your part in it. But more importantly, to be willing to question everything and to begin to deconstruct the conditioning. Because you absolutely have the ability to have economic freedom. You absolutely have the ability to step out of this hamster wheel. It is understanding. So mastering your spiritual money game, like I said, it started this week. First official content is dropping this weekend, and it's 10 weeks with me. It's $1,111. There's an epic payment plan available as usual, because everyone knows I love a good payment plan. I'm gonna give you guys the link. And I guess the other thing is that if any of you haven't joined the Wealth Alchemy Mastermind, it's still $22 a month, which is freaking insanity. It's so crazy, but I don't even know when I'm gonna have time to move it up. It was supposed to increase, that price was supposed to increase, but it's a little bit of a process because it's all done through a bot in Telegram. And so it's not as easy as just going and changing a payment button. Like I have to actually go through the whole bot and reconstruct the payment portion of the thing. So here is also the information for the Wealth Alchemy Mastermind, which is basically a daily wealth drip. And let me just tell you how much daily wealth consciousness information you're going to be getting on all of this going forward. So that's $22 a month. There's Mastering Your Spiritual Money Game. I am still showing up doing my healing work in the world. I hope that you will take the lead and continue to do the same thing. Go out and make a difference in the way that you're here and you're meant to make a difference. And I think that's it. You are welcome, Kelly. Everyone, you're so welcome. Mastermind link is there now. And Mastering Your Spiritual Money Game link is there now. And I'll probably be back with more to say tomorrow. So have an amazing rest of your day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world as you are watching this live stream or you're watching the replay. Remember, it is your divine birthright to be wealthy in all areas of your life. This constant state of lack and scarcity and fear that we're living in right now, it's not it. This is not what we were meant for. It is not what we are here for. You are so worthy and you are so deserving of all the gifts that the universe wishes to bestow upon you. All you have to do is decide to opt in. So I think that's it. Love you guys. Mwah!